Thanks.
All right. First off, can I get a quick thumbs up if someone can see my screen? Can you see the title slide here? All right, I got two of them. Great. So thank you guys for joining me today. It's a great privilege to be able to kind of share a little bit about what I do. And candidly, when I was a little bit younger, I would have really liked to see this career path and kind of some of the key themes about this career, um, so that I could kind of make a path towards that as well. So it's really a great privilege to be able to share this with you all, and I hope you find something interesting out of it. Um, from this first title slide, it looks very complex, but I think business technology and marketing, right, are involved in a lot of different things for many different businesses. And I just wanted to kind of give you a lens into how you can use all three of those in various different ways to create some meaningful experiences. And I think out of a lot of our jobs in our lives, that's really what we want, right? Is to bring more meaning to the things for ourselves and for others. So maybe another quick thumb just so I can get a gauge of sort of what you all are interested in. So how many of the four of you are more interested in business? Maybe starting a business, or all right, I got Janice as a thumbs up there. What about technology? Is anybody super interested in technology, websites, those types of things? Maybe not so much. That's okay. What about marketing or psychology or the way that people think? All right, good. We got Xavier on that one. Great. So I think interestingly, we're going to go through all of those, and I'll keep that in mind as we move forward, kind of your guys' interest in that. All right, we have two in the waiting room. Let's see if we can admit them as well. One, two. All right. All right. Welcome, Jocelyn and Daniel. We're just getting started. So, first title slide, we'll get into it real quick here. I'm going to go ahead and give an introduction to myself. We're going to talk a little bit about digital products and why they matter. We have a bunch of them in our lives, and we'll go through kind of how they're built and why. And then we'll talk about kind of the teams behind those digital products, how they're built, how they come to life. And then I'll sort of wrap up by talking about how you could enter a career in this field. I'll share a little bit about my personal journey, and then I'll leave a bunch of time for open questions if you guys have them. Just give a little bit of background of myself. I do live in the St. Louis area. Me and my wife spend the majority of our time chasing around a 1-year-old son named PJ, and we have a 3-year-old golden retriever named Sal. So as you can tell, our house is constantly a mess, but we have a lot of fun doing that these days. For school, I went to Purdue University, and I studied business technology. They called it information systems. So, really, how computers and businesses connect to drive value. And then currently, I'm also getting my MBA from SLU down the street. For work, I started off at Bank of America in some business analyst roles. So, kind of more heavy in creating analytics and using data to drive results. I moved into doing some management consulting for a company called Huron. So, we did a lot of analytics and digital products for hospitals. And then now, as you can see by this national sign as well, I work for Enterprise Mobility, so the big enterprise rent-a-car company right here in Clayton in St. Louis. And I'm currently on their digital product management team, which is what I'm here to share with you all. So I want to talk a little bit about digital products and why they matter, right? We see a bunch of them in our everyday lives, but they really probably touch more than you think. So maybe in the chat, or if someone could come off mute, could we get a couple examples of you all from sort of a digital product that you use every day or one that you can come up with? Anything come to mind? Audiobooks, excellent example, Xavier. And that's an interesting example as well. We'll get to that in a second. What about some other examples? Could be apps, could be websites, anything else we use on a day-to-day basis you can think of? All right, well, we'll stick with audiobooks. I think that was a great example. Internet in general is another fantastic example in a general sense. Thank you, Daniel. Online courses, another great example. Awesome. So I think you guys are getting the concept, right? It is, I like to think of it as an interface that delivers an experience or a service, right? So you can see a myriad of different ones here, but I think when we think about a digital product, we maybe think about it strictly as something on our phone or in our pocket. But in reality, there's a lot of different ways in which screens and technology are facilitating different services for us in our lives, right? So previously, where all learning was in person, just as we're doing today, Zoom is a digital product. To Xavier's point, online courses are other means that we can now learn through digital means. And what's interesting about all of these digital products, when you think about it, is how did they get to be designed the way that they are, right? Did they come out of the box this way, or did someone have to think about the way that they look, the way that you touch them on the screen, right? The functionality behind it. And so, something like audiobooks is another really great example where you have a use case where for the majority of the time, someone's using it to listen, but they're also seeing that screen and that interface. And so you have to think about all these different design aspects that ultimately relate to the end customer experience, right? So as we think about creating the right experience, you have to think about what that use case is going to be. And I thought this was a fun, interesting example. Me and my family, we play Wordle all of the time. We have a group chat going to share our scores every day. Maybe give a thumbs up if you play Wordle as well. We do love that here. But Wordle versus Kindle, I thought was an interesting product example in the sense of when someone was creating both of these, what were they trying to portray to their customers, right? What did the customers want when they were using these different products? So for Wordle, the words that came to mind for me would be fun. It's a game. It's supposed to be social. And by this little GIF in the left, you can see they designed it to intentionally, jump around on the screen. The share screen comes up immediately when you finish. So they want you to share it with your family and friends what score you got, right? And then you think about a Kindle. A Kindle is basically a digital replacement for books or a library. And so, what are kind of some of the feelings you want when you use a Kindle? You want it to feel sophisticated, right? You want it to feel like you are reading an actual book. You kind of want it to be not so many colors, more cozy, relaxing. And so the challenge I pose is what if we flipped these, right? What if you designed a Kindle like you designed Wordle to be fun, game, social, and you designed Wordle to be more like a Kindle, so it was cozy and relaxing? Well, if you did that, the end customers probably wouldn't get so much out of it, right? The feeling that you're associating with what you're using that tool for, you probably wouldn't get as much out of it. So I thought this was a good example to show why the way that you design something is so important. So an example I want to walk you through that particularly relates exactly to kind of what is my job? Why am I sharing this with you all today? I'd like to use a product that I think we've all used for either learning or entertainment, right? Which is YouTube. And so I wanted to walk you all through kind of how YouTube used business, technology, and marketing to create the product that it is. But to also show that if you only used one of those by themselves, you probably wouldn't get a great product or the great experience that we have, right? So if we think about YouTube as a whole, um, it's a product that, it's a service that stores videos, right? So we can all upload different videos for content or entertainment. And then the product is that we are allowed to view those videos of others. We can comment, we can share those videos, right? And so before this was created, you had a bunch of people that had to ask, okay, these are the services or products we want to provide, but how do we actually build them, right? And so you have different arms you can use in a business. You can use the business team who has financing, they have money, they have strategy, and then you have others that are technology, right? So they're the ones who actually know how to build the product. And then there's marketing, who knows how to get the product in front of the most amount of people, to display it in a way that's engaging and interactive. And so all three of these things need to work together, but how, right? So to give you a fun demonstration, let's say that YouTube was only built with technology. So no business, no marketing. The technology team would say, we've built the code, but that's really all that you can access, right? So you can type in the code in order to retrieve the video files, but beyond that, you're not really going to be able to see much. It'll just be the code. Well, if that was the case, customers would come to YouTube and be very confused, right? Because I certainly don't know how to code in depth. And so that all of a sudden this product is no longer very useful to me, right? It's not facilitating that original service or product that they showed. If I'm the business team and I'm the only ones that wanted to build this product, I would say, well, let's just share as many videos as we can and make a lot of money from sharing those videos, right? Let's just make it as efficient as possible. So maybe you'd get something like this, where it's sort of a big list of files, right? You could see all the different videos that they had to offer, but they weren't categorized very well. Nobody spent the time to make this experience easy for you to see or share the videos. And so maybe customers are rolling their eyes a little bit, and they're a little annoyed that the business is making them do a lot of the work, right, to actually use this product. So lastly, let's say, well, I'm the marketing team and I'm the one who gets to build this product. How would I build it? Well, the marketing team would say, let's make this as splashy and rememberable and recognizable as possible, right? But when they do that, customers may get distracted, right? They may see all of these super flashy things on the website, but what the marketing team may miss is the functionality, that you're actually supposed to be able to upload these videos easily, be able to view them easily, share them. And so they might miss a lot of the advantages that the technology team or the business team had to offer. And so in product management, what my role is we get to work with all three of these teams to put out the best customer experience from the get-go, right? So I thought this was fun because this is the original web page of YouTube from 2005. I'm not sure I was even old enough to look at YouTube at this point. But what's interesting is, even at this initial point, you can see that someone in the middle had to be essentially the negotiator between business, technology, and marketing to create a usable product for all of their customers, right? So you can see here, there are elements of marketing. You have a YouTube logo, and you have some featured videos at the bottom that are a little more easier for customers to access and are flashy. But it's not too flashy, right? It's not, you don't see too much going on the page. It's simple enough that the technology is there for you to be able to search for these videos, but not too technical that you would have no idea where to go to use the product, right? So it's this fun balance of always constantly trying to use all three at the same time. I think a key interesting piece here too is, for me personally, I really enjoy all three of these different aspects, right? So I enjoy business. I think marketing is very interesting. I enjoy uh, working with people who know how to code very deeply. But I actually don't have to be a super expert at any of those three. I kind of get to be involved in all three worlds to be able to produce something like this. So it's kind of an interesting blend if you are interested in many different things and get to work with a lot of different teams. So the net result of this, right, is that not only are the customers happy, but the company's happy. And so that kind of brings us back to why digital products matters. If you remember, it's really the interface, it's the interaction of a business of giving you a product or a service. And the picture on the right is sort of alluding to the point, which is that if you have very happy customers using your digital products, right, your audiobooks, your online courses, well, they're going to come back and keep doing that again. And so the business team knows, the company knows that it's a really big advantage if you have those happy customers for the long term. And so you need product managers to be able to sit in the middle and balance all these different teams in order to create this great product, right? The second piece of the job is that once you put that product out into the world, the customer needs are always going to be evolving, right? So you can't just obviously put that YouTube webpage out there and let it stay the same forever. Obviously, we probably all looked at this YouTube page and thought it's a little outdated compared to what we have today. So you can see on the right, we have YouTube. That was a screenshot from yesterday. So you can see it's obviously evolved a lot. And so behind the scenes, there have been product managers receiving that customer feedback, knowing how to continually make them happy and satisfied in this experience, and then constantly putting out new updates to these products and platforms in order to keep customers coming back. So it's another big piece of the job too. Just to show you a really quick example of my work, something that I've done in this role. So as I told you, I'm with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So that also includes the national brand as well as the Alamo rental brand. And so from a digital lens, a lot of our tools are used for things like checking in for your rental, right? I'm sure you've seen yourselves or your parents rent a rental car or check in for a flight. We're trying to get all that information up front so that it's as seamless as possible for you to get in that car, get on that plane, and go. What we saw in the older version of one of our websites, we had a lot of customer complaints about the check-in process, right? So this is an old screen where you can see in the bottom, somebody had already checked in, and we've let them know that you can skip the counter and you can go straight to your car. Well, we found a lot of customer feedback that there was not enough detail. It was confusing. It wasn't exciting enough. And so we worked with our business folks, our marketing and our technology to say, how could we produce something that's better, right? And so you'll see here, really not too many crazy changes, but a couple small things will make the difference to customers. So we were able to clearly put a title that said, hey, you're all set. You're ready to go to your car. You're good. We outlined more clear steps for your check-in. We made sure you had a clear version of your confirmation. And then we made it fun, right? We added some different little exciting pictures, made them interactive so that you felt like you were enjoying the experience as you were going through it. So it's these little things as a product manager that you can combine different elements of business, technology, and marketing and bring a more meaningful experience to people. So that's a little bit about the why, right? Like why are we doing this? Why do product managers exist in organizations? So now I want to talk a little bit about the how product teams are building experiences behind the scenes. How do I work with those different teams in order to create these experiences? But before I do that, Courtney, did we have any questions in the chat that I may have missed, or anyone have any questions from the first section?
I don't see anything in chat, Nick, but folks are free to come off of mute if they have any questions to ask.
Selfishly, I needed a quick drink of water, but if anyone also has a question, I'll give everyone a second here. All right, well, we'll keep going. So we talked about the why. Now let's talk about the how. How do product teams build experiences? Sort of again, as I talked about, you don't need so many technical skills to do this job. Really, it requires a lot of soft skills. And the first one to me that's important is just listening. So a large part of my job is looking at all of the different digital products we have and gathering customer feedback. So we have some different tools that customers can provide us their feedback frequently, and it will consolidate it into summaries that I can then understand. As you can see that green bar in the first graph there, how many customers are satisfied with our website or our experience? How many are not satisfied at all? And then you can kind of drill into that and review some of their feedback, right? So you can see this is actually real feedback from one of our websites. Sometimes we get fives, but I'm actually looking for the ones that are lower scores because I want to know what's wrong so I can fix it. So you can see this was on our enterprise car sales site where you can shop for used cars. And someone said, I couldn't find the search engine to simply type in Outlander or like a type of vehicle that they were looking for. So if I see enough of those, I can begin to dig in. We can even reach out to some customers and understand how we can make that experience better. But the key takeaway is that everything starts with listening to your customers and being honest about the health and feedback of your digital product. So once we have some of that feedback, then we can go back to our other teams, which include business, marketing, and technology, right? And say, hey, the original product we put out is working really well, but here's some different areas that customers have told us that we may need to change or to update. And so we put all those out on the table. I mean, truly, this is a picture I got off of Google. Don't get me wrong, but it kind of does look like this in real life, right? We all gather together and we try to have open, honest conversations about how we can make these experiences better. And sometimes the net result of that is on the right. So this is a real chart from one of these types of collaborative sessions. We'll get all the solutions and sticky notes up on the wall, and then we'll prioritize them based on how achievable we think they are. So is this a reasonable thing that we think we can build versus how much value do we think it's going to add, right? So there are things where, if you could build something super amazing and then you realize it may not actually deliver that much value based on what the customer is giving us back. So very collaborative process, but we're always trying to also work with other teams to get ideas and then sort of rank those and stack those against each other. The third thing we do here, so we've gathered customer feedback, we've gotten inputs from other teams on how to solve those pain points, and we've ranked them against what we think we can achieve. Once we feel like we've identified some really good areas to either optimize or build from scratch, then we actually get engaged with our engineering team. So we do have a bunch of great people on the technology team who know how to code, who can create these things. And then we also, sometimes product managers can act as designers, but many times we actually have folks who are more in that design space. And so it's escaping me a little bit who is the one who raised their hand on marketing. But I think for marketing and psychology, if you're interested in kind of how people think and interact with different things, another really great career opportunity is to be what we call a UX designer. And that's someone who actually specializes in understanding how people interact with different interfaces like a phone or a computer. And so what they'll do is actually begin to design the product. So you can see it truly starts with some scratched out boxes with a pencil. And over time, it slowly gets refined through digital processes and coding into an actual working product. So kind of fun to see, like a pencil drawing actually become a real tool that people use, but that's truly what it starts from. It all starts from an idea, it starts from collaboration and bringing a lot of teams together to do that. So once you've developed this product, once you feel like you have something that is validated by a bunch of teams, that you feel like is going to solve some customer pain points, well, how do you actually go out and make sure that it does? The next major piece is that we actually go and we test it out, right? So in many cases, we have a product that's already out there that people are already using. So take that previous example of YouTube in 2005, right? Something is out there in the world, it's being used, we've gotten feedback on it. Maybe we can just tweak a few different things in order to bring a better experience to customers. So we can actually build that and test it in real time. So we can take, we call it an A/B test here. So we take option A and we put that in front of customers. And then we also take option B that's slightly tweaked in the ways we think will help. And we also put that in front of customers. And we simply see if one version over the other will give us those better outcomes or that better customer satisfaction. And that's really the only true way that we'll know if we've solved the customer problems, right? So an interesting example here, and I'd love some feedback in the chat here. So get the typing fingers ready. This is a real experiment that we did for Alamo.com, right? So we did get some customer feedback that based on the screen setup around the booking widget, so that's where you can type in your information. I want to go to Chicago this weekend. How do I book a rental car? You can see that we call it the hero image at the top, is smaller in the first screen, but it's much larger in the second screen. And so we wanted to test if that had any implications on the actual outcomes for customers. Did putting the A, the first one, in front of customers, or B, result in more reservations, happier customers, or anything like that? It's a very simple change, but we are curious if it would have any effects. So in the chat, I'd love for you to put which of A or B, so top left is A, bottom is B, which one that you would prefer as a customer. Xavier B, China B, 2 for B so far, 3 for B. Any A's? Daniel says B for sure. So we are 5 for 5 B. Okay. So interestingly enough, you all passed. If you said A, that's a preference. And what's funny is I was kind of hoping someone would say A, because even though in our studies B won, oftentimes we do get a split. And so we kind of have to weigh a decision, right? So many times we'll run this test and 70% of customers will say B, 30% will say A. But most of the time, not everyone's happy. And we do have to make a decision on how do we make the most customers happy with what we put out there. But you guys passed the test. Interestingly, when we put this in front of customers, when we put B in front of customers, the satisfaction, or what we call our CSAT score, that went way up. We also saw a 3.5% increase in reservations. So 3.5% more people booked through Alamo.com for rental cars. And that actually resulted in $11 million more for the business team. So something as simple as the way you present an image on your homepage can have very large effects to the bottom line, and is another reason why these things matter so much. So just to kind of recall, because I think we do have a second here, just to refresh the process, how do we build products? We listen, we gather feedback, we're always trying to be empathetic and sit in the customer seat and understand what their needs are. We then bring that in-house and we talk with a bunch of other teams to find the right solutions for customers. We then get with engineering and design, and we work to collaborate to actually create something that we think is going to solve those problems. And then finally, we test it out and see if we were right or wrong. And lastly, to note, if we are wrong, we definitely take ownership of that, right? If we think we were going to solve a problem with a certain layout, many times that result does come back wrong, that we didn't anticipate what customers wanted. And so with that, we get to keep iterating and keep putting new things out there until we get some results that we're happy with, or that our customers are happy with. So to quickly wrap up, if any of this sounds interesting to you, right? If you want to have a seat at some different tables and be able to collaborate with a lot of different teams, and ultimately be involved in the creation of some of these products, how could you go about getting into a career like this? Unfortunately, I don't have a magic box for you, because what is a little bit interesting is because it sits in the middle, you really could come from a lot of different backgrounds to actually become a product manager. Many people on my team do come from more business-focused backgrounds who enjoy technology, but some of them started as UX designers and grew some more fondness for business and technology later. So there's a multitude of backgrounds that you could come from. And with that, the point stands that really soft skills are the most important thing that you can do, right? So if you think about, I need to make sure that many teams' inputs are heard, I need to consider and prioritize customers, I need to be a good listener, then it makes sense that soft skills are going to be your biggest assets when doing a job like this. So I took this from the internet. I didn't make this myself, but I think it stands true. The top 5 soft skills for a product manager is to practice communication, right? To constantly be thinking through and analyzing, different results in the data that you get back from customers. It's always a positive to be really organized, and to be kind of the leader in the room in terms of moving things forward. You always have to be adaptable, right? As I just mentioned, many times you get to the finish line and you think, I have the perfect solution for this customer problem. And we do the A/B test and we find out we were wrong. So that happens often. And so we have to be willing to be adaptable. And then finally, you do have to be a good leader, in the sense that you do have to have a strong voice in the room, but you also have to allow others to be heard and to hear their thoughts as well. So it's definitely all a balance. I will say, from the hard skills side, as I had some folks raise their hands earlier, and that was really exciting to see. If you do love technology or psychology, the way people interact with things in the world, how they think about things, those are huge bonuses, because those are only going to be assets as you try to do this job. I don't know how to code, but I've learned a lot about coding and different types of coding, and the way that how websites and apps are built through this job and this journey. So If those things interest you, it'll only be to your benefit that you can know how to do them. And then on the bottom right there, there is a ton of free stuff online. If you simply Google product manager courses, you can look up YouTube videos. Also, for those who have more of an interest in design or being a UX designer, there's so many certificates and courses now that you can take out there for free, right? As Xavier alluded to, online courses are everywhere now. And they're a really great resource for you to get started and just start thinking about how you could go down this path. Just to give a little bit of a background of how I got here. So again, I studied information systems at Purdue. It gave me a good foundation of how business and technology come together. But to be candid, also, I didn't have a deep background in finance or a deep background in coding or technology. I kind of had a shallow understanding of many of those different things together. But that also allowed me to be a good generalist and to understand different perspectives when we did get in the room with all those different teams. So this doesn't have to be your background, but it did help me in mine. And I put on here the different aspects of those soft skills. I think as I went into different pieces of roles in my career, I was able to learn some of those different soft skills as I went along. So this is also acknowledging that, right out of the gate, if you're going to college or otherwise, you may not get a product manager role right away. There are things like internships and associate product manager roles as well that you can definitely look into. In fact, Enterprise has a great internship program that this is our first year that we've allowed product management interns into our group. So really excited about that. But really, this is to show that this is a role that you may evolve into over time, and you can take many different journeys and different roles before you actually get into something necessarily like this. I think the final takeaway with this, and most importantly, is just that as you're a product manager, as we looked at with YouTube, right, as we saw with many of the different examples you guys put out there with audiobooks and the internet and online courses, we all use these things every day. And so what you're building is being used by millions of people that you may or may not know. And there are aspects of that are very exciting. But there's also aspects that definitely make it a responsibility, right? I think we've probably all used social media and other things that in some ways are great benefits, but also can be distracting and hindrances and negative impacts to our lives too. And so really, if that at all impacts you as a person, and you want to know how maybe you can be a point of change in providing some positive products into the world, I think the best way to do it is to help build them yourselves. So just wanted to give you that at the end, that I think really anybody is capable of being a product manager. It's a really rewarding experience, and ultimately reflects some great change in the world. So I hope you got a little bit about the process out of this, kind of why someone would embark on this different type of career journey than you may have seen before. But with that, definitely happy to take any questions about anything you've seen. I think we have about 15 minutes here. Keep the chat open as well. But questions could also be about, things outside of product management, could be about career, could be about business, marketing, technology, YouTube, anything that's on your guys' mind. I'm open to answer. Yeah, Xavier, tip for building a marketing portfolio. That is a really good question. Um, can I ask, and you can put it in the chat if that's most comfortable, is that like a personal marketing portfolio? Like, how can you build a portfolio of things that you've done in the marketing world? Awesome. Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it's relevant even for folks like product managers or technology or business, right? It's how are we constantly keeping a tab on great things that we're accomplishing? Personally in my job, I always have sort of another page or something open where I'm constantly trying to record and think about all the different things that I'm working on. But Xavier, I think too, a tip for building a marketing portfolio, I would say um, definitely focus on just trying to tinker or work on things that are customer facing, right? So marketing in general spans even broader than products. You have things like advertising, um, content, and copy. So every time you go on a website, if I go back here, let me go back a little bit. So this tagline here, like rent with Alamo and drive happy, that was not something I came up with. We have an entire content and copyright team that is constantly trying to understand what type of messaging is going to resonate most with customers. And so if those types of things interest you, I would work on tinkering those yourself, either if that's kind of creating things like a blog or like a post or something and trying to understand how can I get the right messaging out to people, but maybe also just searching and seeing what types of different marketing inspires you, right? Go to websites of things you're interested in and see how they are positioning themselves for customers. And then I think in that way, you can understand what you want to work on yourself and start to build that portfolio. So I don't know if that was helpful. Maybe you can give a thumbs up or not, if that sort of answered your question, but happy to continue on it. Great. Yeah, marketing's a fun one. It's one of my concentrations in my MBA, and it's just very interesting because it's art, but it's also science. So you try to do a lot of measurement, but it's also around emotion, how people feel about different products, and so um, it's messy, but it's very fun. So glad to hear you're interested in it, Xavier. Any other questions before we wrap up? All right. Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate it. Um, well, if that's the case, Courtney, so I'll definitely add my contact information here, as you can see, to the PowerPoint. If you guys have any questions at all or interested in the career path, I'm happy to provide, some resources around different certifications or things that I got started on. Um, but in general, if you have any other questions as you take this back and think through it, just feel free to reach out anytime. So thank you all for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Nothing wrong with getting 10 minutes back on a Thursday afternoon. So you guys enjoy the rest of your summers, and hope to chat again.